Hello and welcome back to another business OCR GCSE session. I'm going to be going through answer structure in this presentation, so looking at different types of questions you could be asked and how you should be tackling them. So the first thing to look at is assessment objectives. So this is how you're going to be basically marked. So where it says AO1, AO2 and AO3, these are the assessment objectives that an examiner will be looking at to mark your work. Just imagine it as a staircase. You're starting at AO1. If that goes all right, you move up to AO2, and then if that all goes well, you move up to AO3. There's a list of command words below for each different section. You can pause the video and just read through these, but it's pretty straightforward, so I'll leave that and get straight into looking at different types of questions. This is our basic structure. I'll go through this as I go on to each different type of question, but again, if you want to pause this and write it down, you're more than welcome to. So you start off with the shorter questions, so these will be multiple choice, 1 markers, 2 markers, things like that. And the multiple choice is obviously just putting a letter in, and obviously don't forget to put a letter in. Have a guess, even if you can't remember. You've got a 25% chance to give it a go. If you have a look at the ones below, just give your point. So you don't need to write it in a full sentence. So say, for example, on the bottom where it says state 2 characteristics of an entrepreneur, you don't need to write a characteristic of an entrepreneur is determined. Just write down determined and then save that time for later when you've got the longer questions to do. Pretty straightforward. You may also have some calculate questions, filling in table questions, but you might also get some 2 markers, which are your explain questions. This is really straightforward. You simply state your point and then you explain. You explain maybe why it's right, why it's the best solution, why it might be useful for them. But what I would say for your explanation, to make sure you're getting that 2 marks, try and make it specific to the situation, to the context, to the case study, to the business that's being questioned. So in this example here, it's about expansion using organic growth. I've given the point of opening new stores, selling more products, and then Boohoo has increased its product range. That was in the case study, so I pulled that out to support my answer. We move on now to 3 markers. So now we're looking at the structure of PEC, point, explain, case study, or context. So this question is based on a disadvantage for Boots UK of communicating important information within a meeting. So a point here is a disadvantage is there might be lots of people in a meeting. Therefore, it might be difficult for communication to get across. But if you look in my explanation, I've linked it to Christmas promotions, which was in the case study. So even up before I got to the C bit, I've already referenced something from the case study. So if you can bring in something from the context, from the case study, from the type of business into your explanation, it really helps lift your answer. And then after this, I go, this may lead to staff not knowing about promotion. So again, that was in the case study, so I'm linking it back to that in my C bit. A 6 marker is just 2 3 markers. So I'm not going to go through this because it's the same as structure as the one before, but if you want to pause this and have a look at this in your own time, you're more than welcome. Okay, we move on to 7 markers plus. We're going to look at 7 markers, then we're going to look at 9 markers. My structure is down on the left-hand side. I would encourage you to start with a key term for your 7 markers and your 9 markers. And then you go into doing 2 PECs, and then you do an evaluation, and I use a JCI structure for your evaluation. So start off with your key term, pick the key term from the question. If there's not a clear key term from the question, then just don't do one, but there usually is. For example, here you could have defined unemployment, you could have defined stakeholders, either of them would have been absolutely fine. So start off with your definition. Then you're to do 2 PECs. So this one is about how the rise in unemployment might impact on 2 key stakeholders for Tesco. So the first stakeholder that I was talking about, it was the shareholders. So they're going to be negatively impacted because people are going to be spending less money. And that's what I went through in my point, my explanation. And then I've linked it to the case study by sort of saying that potentially their dividends and they might have a lower share price as well, which again was in the case study. And then for the second point, I talked about customers. So point is customers may also be affected. They might have less money, which means they go and buy cheaper goods from Tesco, for example. And again, they in the case study it referenced like Finest and Tesco value products. But again, it doesn't necessarily, I've linked it to the Tesco, I've linked it to the specific situation, and that should be enough to get my marks for linking it to the context. Then I move on to the evaluation. This is your conclusion. I always encourage students to start a conclusion with these 2 words, to conclude with a comma. What this is doing is something called signposting. You're signposting to the examiner, give me marks for my evaluation here. So start off with your to conclude, make a judgment. It could be out of the two which one is going to be the most impacted or the most important, or your decision on what they should do if they're deciding between becoming a sole trader and partnership, which one is the best situation for them, and make a choice, and you get marks for making a choice. So in this situation here, I went with customers, so that was my judgment. I then linked it back to the context and the case study again, and then you want to finish off with, right, what is the impact on this business? Okay, that's your final bit, your I. What is the impact of unemployment in this situation on the customers? 9 marker, it's the same structure. You might want to write a fraction more for this one, but in essence, I treat 7 and 9 markers the same. So this one, again, this was about cost plus pricing. Start off by defining cost plus, and then you go through the same structure, PEC, JCI. It's the same structure as the 7 marker. Again, I won't go through this one because it's the same as before, but if you want to pause it and have a look at this one, then you're more than welcome to. And that is the end. Thanks very much.